find some new like music to start us with, because esa música has me in the background and I'm like, I need to find something that's hyper, but because of copyright laws, I can't do like my salsa. So we got to get it together. Hello, people. Happy Tuesday, my favorite day of the week. And you people are probably so sick of hearing me say that, but here's a funny thing. True story. Last week, we aired on a Wednesday, and I still said, hey, happy Tuesday. And no one corrected me. Love you people. You don't play me even when you should. Happy Tuesday, folks, and welcome, welcome. Thank you for always being here, for being so full of energy, for loving on my guests, and for enjoying the evening with us. Before we get into our topic of this evening, I want to remind folks, as we always do, we are here for a purpose. We are here for a reason. If you or anyone you know is dealing with some form of domestic violence, whether it's a loved one, a coworker, someone you know, a brother, a sister, whatever the case may be, if you are dealing with it, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can reach all of us in our pretty faces at all of our social media content, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, but you can also find us at our website at loveshouldnothurt.com. Thank you guys again for being here. Carmen, good evening, and thank you for being such a devout follower every week. The last time we were here, we were speaking with Abigail Cousins. We had an amazing discussion about her book, My Unspoken Truth. I will remind you folks to go to Amazon and cop that book because it's amazing. Hard subject, but a very amazing conversation about child sexual abuse. It was a difficult conversation. Emotion was shared, tears were shed, but it was a good, great evening. But tonight, I have the pleasure of bringing on what I call a fan favorite, because whenever this gentleman is on screen with me, I tend to get a lot of inbox messages after. Ladies, I know you're watching. I get it. But he's a fan favorite. So we brought him back, not because we get a lot of inboxes, but because Edwin Desamour always has such great conversation. Sometimes he's controversial, and that's why we love him. So tonight we are welcoming Edwin Desamour back, and we are talking about narcissism. Now, folks, if you remember, we had this discussion just a few weeks ago, but unfortunately it fell on the anniversary of the death of a friend, and I was unable to keep it together. So we decided that it is a super important conversation that needed to have a great discussion. So we're bringing it back to the screen today, and with a great guest. Let me welcome again, Edwin Desamour.
Hey,
hello, sir.
Hello, how you doing?
I am fabulous. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good. Just got home and ready to dive into this conversation on narcissism.
All right, you got your alcohol ready.
Yeah, everything ready.
Green tea tonight. Que falta de respeto. But I want to remind folks before we get into the conversation of what it was like the times that you were here. So we have a video that we want to play just so that the ladies and the gents can watch and remember the conversations that we had with you. Ray, let's throw that video up.
In the future. So it is a horrible situation to be in. Just for a woman to feel helpless. I know, we still live in a day and a time where people still judge a woman saying, why does she stay in that situation? Yeah. Let's even take the physical part out of it. A lot of us are in situations, a lot of people in this world, on this planet, in our community are in unhealthy relationships, period. It doesn't even have to be physical. Yeah. So we can ask that same question, why are you still in it?
Right.
Why are we still in that? And and it doesn't even have to be a husband or wife. Say if it's just a friendship, why are you still friends with that person? That person treats you like that.
Yeah.
It just goes back to what is healthy and self-love. But Definitely. It's a horrible situation, and it's a situation where nobody's loving themselves for both parties, the abuser and the abused. Jesse's comment, I remember, I'm putting my age out there, growing up in the 80s. I remember the girls in the neighborhood. Certain girls you couldn't get with. You had to be a bichota. You had to be a big time drug dealer. You had to be this dude, right? And they was with these big time drug dealers, and now the drug dealer is in jail doing 50 years, or he's dead. And now you went to the next bichota, that didn't work out, and now you're in your 40s and you on Facebook talking about a man don't want a good woman.
Yes.
Well, hold on.
Right.
Now you want any man. Now you want a man who even works at McDonald's. You just want a man, period. Right? Because but now you just put men on blast. Like, they're a real woman. Like, no, you gonna skate it by every good man you found.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you wanted that bag, that that bag out, but it goes both ways.
It does.
To that, I think, in my opinion too, I think a woman wants a man, when you're talking about bad, I think a woman wants a man that she can feel safe around.
Yes.
You know, she doesn't want nobody who's ready to beat everybody the hell up, but she wants to feel safe around her
Yeah.
man.
We always have a good time when you are on the screen because you are just up front, you are forward, and you always have the comments lit. So welcome back to our show. Tell us a little bit about who you are, Edwin, because there might be a bunch of people who don't know who you are, what you do, and what you represent.
All right. Well, first of all, I was a little confident in those videos, especially when I had Ray there to back me up. So I'm a little quiet right now without Ray. That was my lifeline. So, you know, when I had Ray on there, I was full all out machismo, you know.
He threw up way pop.
My name is Edwin Desamour, born and raised in the Goodlands, which is the West Kensington. There are a lot of good people down there. So many of you saying Goodlands, what is he talking about? And it's just about breaking that stereotype. Yeah, we have issues down there. We're plagued with so much with the opioid epidemic, the violence and everything else. But at the end of the day, there's still good, beautiful people who live in that area. So I'm pretty much I don't even want to say community activist. I serve people, serve our community, and that's who I am. You know, right now I'm the director of the sports complex on Erie Ave. Just became the sports director, but at the same time, still an advocate and someone who serves out there. And I'm a father and a family man, and just evolving and growing every day. You know, make mistakes just like everybody else. So just to let everybody know too, she did not bring me on here because I'm an expert on narcissism or I knew about it.
I didn't.
We ran into each other at a networking event and she brought it up and I was like, oh, wait. But you know what? I guess it's going to be a good show because we're going to talk about it.
My next question was gonna be, well, why did you say yes?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll let you know at the end of the show because I you know, when you say, hey, we could about talk with someone else, but then we kept playing phone tag, and about the time I turned around, the flyer was up. I was like, well, I guess I'm in it now.
That's right. I don't play. It's like you yeah, all right, great, got the flyer.
Yeah. So was in it, but it's gave me some time to think and you know, reflect on just the whole piece of narcissism, you know, how we throw that word around, how we throw many words around. And pretty much, and that's why I was skeptical in the beginning about being in the show, but then again, shame on me. Why not tackle this word, even though I'm not a therapist or clinical psychiatrist, but it's just about, you know, we throw that around easily, but do we really know the definition, how it started, where it came from? And I just didn't want to come on a show without really diving into that word, but shame on me in the past for using that word and shame on many of us for using it, not really knowing, because we could take something and really have it desensitized when you really have someone in a terrible situation and they're confused because they really don't know what a real narcissist, you know, is, or being confronted or dealing with something like that, because we throw it around, right? I could turn around and say, I love your hat, but love is a strong word, right? But I'm saying I love your hat, right? I should be saying I like your hat.
Yeah.
You know, it's a nice hat, but we use the word love for everything. But do we really, you know, did we lose the definition of love because we throw it around for anything? You know, I love that song. So we just got a habit as a culture, as a people, just throwing words out there without knowing where that word came from and what it really means.
Right. So I want to preface the start of this conversation by saying, and I think everyone who's watching or who has always watched knows that we are not professionals in any shape or form. I am, by nature, I am a counselor. That is what I do, but I do not proclaim myself any sort of professional person in any of these topics. What I do think that we do is we share good conversations and opinions, and that's what's so helpful about our audience, because we share content back and forth. They get involved, they ask questions. I always like to talk about conversations that other people don't, right? So narcissism is something that absolutely everyone has an opinion on. Like, I could get mad tomorrow and you and I can get into a conversation and you can say, well, I'm better than you. And quickly I can say, you're a narcissist, right? But that doesn't mean I know what that means. So I got the definition for you because you wanted that. So I made sure that I got it so folks knew what it was. The funny thing is when you look up narcissism online, there's like a million definitions.
Yeah. And then there's a million tests out there that people put out there. And what is the real test?
Right. Right. So the definition I found, right, it also has like traits and things like that can describe one. So the definition I have is a person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves, narcissists who think the world revolves around them. So a lot of people can say, oh my God, I know a bunch of them. I know a bunch of narcissists. But when you think of narcissism, they say that it's more of like a sickness.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sickness because there are people who just can't see past believing the whole world revolves around them and everything that they do is about them. And if you don't fit into that, then you're just not okay for them. So some of the traits that they said were overinflated self of importance, constant thoughts about being more successful, powerful, smart, loved, or attractive than others, feelings of superiority, and desire to only associate with high status people. There's a lot more of them, but we can talk about those later. So those are things that I saw when I was on. And, I've been in a lot of domestic violence relationships, right? No secret, very transparent always. I don't think I've ever honestly been in a healthy relationship, honestly. And I see those traits in a lot of the people that I have dated. Because I had such a terrible self-esteem, I never even noticed that they were bad things. I kind of just dealt with them and lived with them. But I often say to people that anybody who's abusive, whether it's with domestic violence or just in the words that we say to each other, like I'm your friend and we can talk and I can say something offensive to you, can come off as narcissistic because of the way that it's presented. I always tell my daughter presentation is everything. The way that you present something to someone is absolutely how they're going to see it. She can say, well, I didn't mean it that way, but it was the way that you presented it. So I think that oftentimes people can say, oh, I've been in a narcissistic, it's really hard to say that word. Narcissistic relationship without really going into it and knowing what it really is. So from that definition and the few traits that I gave, what's your opinion on
that? At the end of the day, we gave out these traits and we talked about identifying them in other people. I think some of the questions should be, can we identify some of those traits in ourselves?
Right.
Because it's easy for us to point those things out,
right,
but it's really difficult for us to point certain things out within ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to start at. When I started to read and study up on this, I started to say to myself, man, I have many of those traits, you know what I mean? But then it makes you think about, it is narcissism in certain ways. And we talking about, I'm not talking about the clinical definition, but how people put it out there. Can it be good or bad when you really think about it? When someone has to believe in themselves to become a president or a CEO or a actor or upcoming athlete, they have to take themselves to a whole nother level and believe in themselves. So is that narcissistic or is that good? Is it good or bad? Because those are certain traits that they are using to better themselves. Well, I think we're talking about how when it gets dangerous, when it becomes manipulative and controlling people, and where it hurts people. And at the end of the day, hopefully, I could kind of twist it a little bit at the end of the show or during the show. Is who's able to be honest enough saying because we're able to sit back and point out a whole bunch of people, but if we look back in our lives, have we displayed some type of unhealthy narcissism towards people and to manipulate it? So not asking anybody to put that in their chats and stuff like that, but asking you to really sit back and check yourself on it. Quick question: do you know about the myth of narcissism, where it started?
I don't.
Well, the narcissist, who was his name, this was a myth, who fell in love with his own reflection and refused to move away from the pool of water. He didn't want to stop looking at himself. He would rather die than move. So he did, and the legend goes on that the narcissist flower came to be when he died and the flower was left behind.
See, you did different research than I did.
Yeah. But pretty much that person had issues. He was ready to die.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a myth, but at the end of the day, when you really look at it, he was caught up. But at the end of the day, again, is who we are. Because the way I look at it, when I look at narcissism, we live in a narcissistic country and society and culture. You really look at, when we start looking upon other countries, like, oh, look at them, and we're like this. Or when you look at cultures, like, oh, these people do like that. I hear the comments. We use certain things, so we start to show those traits as a people, as a culture, as a family. And when you think about how do we pass those things down to our children, so we talk about preventive measures, right? I'm just thinking about, I'm not a therapist, but I'm just talking about preventive measures, right? We made a lot of mistakes, and if we're able to identify certain things, how do we make sure our children are not brought up that way?
Mhm.
Because we say different things, and we act a certain way, and our kids are listening and they're watching. And sometimes I still to this day got to sit back, like, man, I should never done that or acted that way around my children, because that's not the way to act, And it's not, when you talk about, when someone told me about diabetes and certain diseases, they're not really like something passed down in your bloodstreams, which can be the medical case. But they say a lot of times when they say it's hereditary, is because you're in danger of having diabetes if your mother had it, if your father had it, or your grandparents, because it's a lifestyle of the way you eat, right? Because that's passed down. So we talk about, a lot of our men and who are growing up with the machismo. You got to be this way, you got to have that, you got to manipulate, you got to lie, you got to do these things. So you have a lot of people who are not justifying behaviors, or I'm not trying to justify saying this person was right, but we're quick to just like, that's a narcissistic person. But at the same time, what was the story about that? Because a lot of times people don't realize what they're doing is wrong. They kind of do, but at the same time, they were brought up in a way where they felt as though it's okay. Like it's legal to do it because we were taught or brought up that way. And it's kind of like prevention. What can we do to make sure that no one is brought up in that way? Because we do, when you look at the Latino culture, everything is about being macho, right? Everything is about being machismo, right? And the woman must be in her place, right? And you have to serve me, right? You got to do this, you got to do that. We're in a day and time now, women are like, shit, we're not doing all that, but you really think about that, those are so many narcissistic traits that where it's kind of like, it's all about me. Yeah. So it's a deep topic to get into, but it's kind of like, how do we throw that around and how do we prevent it from happening? But self-esteem is good too. You got to have people believe in themselves. To have a business, you got to be like, like I have the beard business, right? So I got to brag about the beard. I got to be like, yo, the beard is the shit. It's the bomb, right? I got to be so up about it because I'm selling a brand, right? But I got to use all those narcissistic traits to sell the beard products, right? And people do that for many other things that they sell, right? Yeah. Because they use those traits. So it could be good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we had this conversation previously, the direction that we were going was in the negative direction, and not that we wanted to be, but we were kind of like recognizing how it becomes negative and how it turns negative, right? Because for my organization, clearly, if I walk into a room, I want to know that when I walk into a room, I demand respect. I do what I do for a living, and it's not an easy thing. People think that what I do is crazy. So I do have to be cocky, I guess they would say, right? Cocky about what it is that I'm educated on, what I know, because I lived it, and this is what I do constantly. So some people see it as she's cocky or she's conceited. I'm not. But I have to know that because I'm somebody in Philadelphia who's doing what I do and not many people do it, I have to have confidence in myself that, yes, I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. And a lot of those traits are that a self, a self of self-importance, and overinflated. Sometimes it is overinflated because I have to show that I'm confident in what it is that I do. Yeah. But I think that that's where the line has to be drawn. Like,
when does it get dangerous? That's the question.
Right, when it gets dangerous, because
when,
like I was about
when does it get dangerous? So a lot of times, excuse me, we, for example, I put myself together. Like I just took on this new role in this job, right? And I put myself together a little advisory council, right? But not for my organization, for myself. So no one really knows about them. So what I did is I chose a group of people that I selected that are very outspoken and they speak their mind. So I gave them each a call saying, I'm stepping into this role. And they said, what do you need from me? I need you to check me. Check me when I'm getting out of hand. Check me when, because I'm still human, right?
Right.
Pride, once that pride is there, it could grow darkness, right?
Mhm.
And I could start feeling myself for certain things. I need to stay humble. So being able to acknowledge and recognize that I'm human, that I could be a certain way, I want people to be able to check me and say, hey, Ed, you get a little carried away there. So me knowing myself, getting put in placing people around me to check me and say, hey, don't forget, this is about serving people. This is about getting the job done. This is not about the accolades. This is not about being praised. So I ask these certain folks, and I've learned to have a habit doing that, but willing to accept and hear their feedback and their constructive criticism, and me being able to back down, but recognizing that I'm human, and it's easy for any of us to get a little, you know, step up there, and act a certain way. But when it comes to the dangerous side of things, when it comes to relationships, I spoke a little, and I'm about to say something that's probably going to be very controversial now for your show, right? But a lot of times people are willing to look beyond the flaws or see certain traits. People already see it when you go on these dates, right? When you meet someone, right? When you meet someone and you try to fill it out and you see all the nonsense there, right? But you're so into that person and you're willing to ignore it, right?
Right.
So there's this saying, right? If we were to take love and put it in a bottle, love, right? Because we want love, right? We put it in a bottle and then we put the label on it said poison, we would still drink it. We would still drink it, right? And then when after a while, when you get sick from it, you're ready to say, narcissist, you're poison. You're like, well, you knew what you were drinking. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like how we come up with preventive measures for ourselves and our children and lead by example, not to put ourselves into unhealthy relationships.
Right. So the traits that I read, coincidentally, were all traits that ourselves as people who want to get ahead would also do or show or display. But there's other traits which I believe now become the dangerous side, right? So there's a sense of entitlement, willingness to take advantage of others to achieve their goals, even if they hurt them. Lack of understanding and consideration for other people's feelings and needs. So that's when, to me, it becomes dangerous, right? Because I could want to get ahead and I can do all I can to inflate myself and make myself look great. But when I'm hurting people in the process, especially in relationships, then that's when it starts to kind of sway. So when we had this conversation last, we spoke about myself being in narcissistic relationships. And like you said, and that's honestly like when you first, it's like the red flags. When you first start dating someone and you can see all the negative things about them, but because you think he's fine or I could change him, you ignore them. But then when they start to cheat or they start to hit you, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But there were flags there at the beginning. You ignored them because you were interested in this person. So you figured either they'll go away or I could just deal with them for now until they become bad. But when we had this discussion, we talked about my personal experience with it, right? And differentiating the good from the bad. How I was in a relationship recently where everything they said to me was demeaning. So everything that was positive about me, if I came home and I'm like so excited about what I do in my organization, it was always, well, I could do that better. Or you shouldn't be that proud of it because if I did it, it would have been better than yours was. Or feeling like everything that I did just was never good enough. Or, yeah, you're beautiful, but that's why I cheated because she's prettier than you, because I deserve someone who looks better than you, type of thing. So that's where, it changes from you're praising yourself to know, yeah, I'm a good looking guy and I could get whoever. But now we're turning to I'm demeaning the person that I'm with because I want to hurt her. There's always a very thin line. Charlotte, oh no, Charlotte was on that show with you and she spoke a lot. Look, she just put up a mad and angry face. Charlotte might have something to say in a minute. But that's where it starts to become dangerous. And I think that's where people tend to not see the difference. Some people like yourself at the beginning can say, oh, well, we all have to have a sense of positivity and we all have to boast ourselves. But when it comes to you boasting yourself and hurting the person that you're with and pushing them down, knowing their self-esteem is low, knowing that they don't feel worth it, knowing that they feel like what they do is not enough, but you're taking satisfaction in boasting yourself to make them feel terrible, make them feel like they're less of a person. Get what I mean?
No, you're absolutely correct. But again, we talk about relationships with a spouse or a partner, and uh, but this goes back to family, friends, co-workers, and everybody else. These things happen. You look at government. You know, people plot on a community, take advantage of a community. You know, knowing they're going to hurt them, and they're in the spotlight. When you look at politics and government, and
Mhm.
it goes back to having a whole entire culture that's caught up in this, and it leads right into relationships where everyone's acting like this. And it's kind of like even social media is not even helping
Yeah.
with it now, because folks is like, well, how many likes you have? Right, well, I have way more than that. You only got this. You know, folks are starting to belittle each other. So it goes back to, again, like, who are we as a people, as a culture? And I'm gonna go on a little bit more deep too on it. And, and please don't get upset with me, folks. I'm just putting it out there. Religion is a form of narcissism. A lot of times when I hear people say, "Well, they're of the world and we're not like them,"
Mhm.
they're or this person is this. But you start putting yourself on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
You know. And it gets pretty deep. It gets pretty deep all the way around. So the moment as we start to evolve and wake up and start just questioning everything, even ourselves,
Mhm.
and even every night, because a lot of times every night I question myself, what did I do wrong today, and what I didn't like about myself? Because we still have a chance to be a different person and a better person next day. Nobody's perfect, you
Yeah.
know, but it's just about having people around you being able to check you too. And I encourage people to do that because you start to grow, you know. But we're not perfect. We make mistakes, and no
Mhm.
one is. But it's just about recognizing your mistakes and owning up to it. But it's easy to recognize everybody else's. But the choice is, can you recognize yours?
You see Ray's comment as, man, we are all sinners. We all sin just differently.
Yeah, yeah. Most definitely not. I know, and there's a lot of folks who are Christians or whatever religion you have. Uh, they
Or
hold
not.
different fundamentals of love and everything else. But then you got some folks who would take from religion and capitalize on it. Like, you know what? You stay in your place. I'm the head of household.
Yeah.
You got to be quiet, or, there's so many things that are put in place where it's still a narcissistic, theme about it. So it's again, us questioning things and who we are, our moral compass. Did we treat someone wrong? Because I'm not. And I mentioned this on the last show. I'm not young. I've been around, but I made a lot of mistakes. I hurt a lot of people. I could sit here and say, yeah, I've done a lot of good, but I know I've done a lot of wrongs.
Mhm.
Sometimes I wish I can go back and apologize to so many different people. And I do when I run into certain people. I say, hey, just want to say sorry for the way I acted, or the way I treated you, or the way I behaved. And some people are like, man, that was like 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or that was like, whatever. But it's kind of like allowing myself to grow
Mhm.
and be a better person. So I'm hoping that if there is I'm talking from a man's point of view, if there is anyone listening out there, it's okay to grow. It's
Mhm.
okay to acknowledge your flaws. It doesn't make you any less of a man, but just recognizing it, man, because life is not easy. It's no open book, and there's no real handbook to it. We just gotta try to learn and grow.
All right. So I see that we have a huge comment that was made. So before we get into Ileana's comment, I want to remind folks, because we have a few seconds till we get to the 30 mark, so I might as well do it now. Just want to remind folks, as I do at the halfway point of every show, if you or someone you love is dealing with domestic violence, a coworker, a loved one, a family member, or yourself, reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Hit us up on any of our social media. If we do not have the answer or the way to help you, we will absolutely find someone to help you. You can also reach us at our website at loveshouldnothurt.com. So Ileana Acevedo, she stated, let's see if it all fits up there. If it doesn't, I'll read it all. Ray put that up. It says, I don't think it all, oh yeah, it does. It says, I understand that your surroundings impact who you are, but they do not and should not be a justification for hurting another person on purpose. I added person. When a person is in denial and doesn't see beyond their own perspective, then being raised or going through a difficult situation is not the excuse.
I agree. I agree. I was not saying to justify any actions, but at the same time, we got to make sure that we're not, how you say, diagnosing someone with something that they don't have, right? But what I mean by that is like, because we're angry with somebody or somebody's just straight selfish. What I'm more speaking on is like, how do we prevent? At the end of the day, we just got idiots out here. There are some people just idiots. They're just cruel people.
Yeah. People who
and they
don't
and they,
care
and they,
for
and
other
they,
people.
and they prey on people. I don't know if I want to, if that's a real diagnosis, an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, if that's a real
There's a lot
clinical
of
thing.
things.
But the thing is that, we do have horrible people, and people do things that are, that are just completely wrong. Again,
To
not just
intentionally hurt folks.
yeah, intentionally. So it's kind of like, how can we be aware of those traits? How can we be aware of what's going on? And then how can we speak to a person? I've never forget that one time, you know, when I used to be with someone, and this was many years ago, when they told me, you never listen to me. You just say your side of the story, but you never let me tell mine. Or you tell me, when you get home from work, I hear about your day, but you never ask me about mine. And I'm like, wow. And it was the truth. It was the truth, and the truth hurts. And I got to be mindful, even to this day, sometimes, with anybody, whoever it is, a friend, whoever it is, how are you doing? How was your day? And sometimes I might leave a situation where I'm at in life, and I forgot to ask this person how they've been doing, because I was just quick to vent or say something, right? And I'm not talking about because I'm out there serving, but there's certain relationships that we take for granted with people, and we never ask them how are they doing, how are they feeling. So it's just us being mindful, and sometimes things are not done on purpose. It's not a narcissistic trait. It's just we were just careless, and sometimes maybe being a little selfish. But it doesn't mean you diagnose me with some real disease that's out there
Right.
that you need
I
help with.
think so. This is why conversations with you, to me, I enjoy that people watch and they hear, because they hear the differences of opinion, because I absolutely agree with what you're saying. But I also feel like there are some people who are walking around that are absolutely narcissists and have narcissist personality disorder. It just never was diagnosed in them. I mean, when you can have a person who every single day intentionally shoots you down, and just their world only revolves around them, and not even in the sense of, see, because your example, I get there's plenty of people like you. I have those moments. I pride myself in being super affectionate, super loving, and super like attentive, and making sure, are you good? Have you had a good day? Are you okay? So if I have a moment where I'm not asking my daughter or the person that I'm with, are you okay? I feel shitty, right? Because afterwards I think, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't consider them. But when you have someone that's in your life that constantly just doesn't care, like just every single day, you can spend 5, 6 years with the person, and they literally intentionally know how much their words hurt you, know that putting you down and demeaning you is tearing you apart, and they take satisfaction from it. You've cried, you've said don't do it, and they enjoy it, and then when you look back at other relationships and you hear, he constantly belittled me, he only said that everything that I did was terrible, everything that I was never good enough, you think to yourself, you can't always self-diagnose, absolutely, but there are a lot of people that honestly I've come into contact with that I'm like,
Well, that's where I was very hesitant about the whole topic. I'm glad we're speaking about it though, because again, it just sounds like a horrible person. But can they be diagnosed as a narcissist, which is a real
yeah,
issue? Like, we don't know, right? But it could be. But there is such things that are just horrible people. Someone that just wants to be a horrible person towards someone and treat someone a certain way. There are bad people out there.
absolutely.
Um,
What
no,
happens when those people, I'm sorry to cut you off, what happens when those people who tend to seem as if they're just horrible people don't see it? They don't even see that they're horrible people. Is that when we decide, and again, neither one of us are therapists, and these are not conversations because we are professionals in this. These are conversations because they're conversations we need to have and people need to talk about, right? And bring them to light so that it makes you think. What happens when people are doing it intentionally because this is who I am, this is how I am on a daily basis, but then say, I don't think they're bad. I don't think putting you down is bad. That's just who I am. Like, and they don't see themselves as bad people. They just say, that's just who, that's just how I feel. Like, if I think you're fat, you're fat, and they don't think they're horrible people. They're walking around like demeaning every woman that they date, every man that they date. And in their mind, it's just, I don't think I'm a bad person. I'm a good person. Yeah. I just think that I'm being honest with you. Even if their honesty is like breaking you down and making you feel like a terrible person on a constant basis.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, if someone was to tell you, you will be nothing without me, right? Your life will be horrible without me. You need me, right? Are those traits, right? If someone was to tell you that, you would look at this person like, hold on, what do you mean? Like, you're nobody without me and you need me, right? And it's easy for us to say, wait a minute, like, who are you to say that to me, right? And tell you ain't nothing, right? But then this is what we pick and choose, right? Because what I'm just telling you right now, this is what God says. I know that's a touchy thing I just touched up on now. Like, God telling you right now, you ain't nothing without me. You better sing to me, you better pray to me, you better worship me, all those are narcissistic traits. But we choose to call it out to whoever we want. Is it bad or good? And that's a whole nother topic, but I'm not trying to do a round 3 with this, but
don't be scared.
But because I know folks will get really offended. I'm just calling it out for what it is, and I'm not bashing that. I'm just saying.
No. I get what you're saying, and this is why these conversations happen.
A person today, it goes back again. Now, if a woman,
Ray said part 3 coming soon.
Well, if a woman, right, for example, you just say you went through everything you went through, right, and now you're like, you know what, let me get myself together. And this is not every church, but you walk into a church, and now you've been told you're nothing all your life. Now you walk into a church, and they telling you again you're nothing. And it's like you're falling all right back into this relationship again. But don't get me wrong, there are some churches that tell you that you are beautiful. Preachers, and let you know that you are special. You do come from something great. Someone created you in a better way. So it's just a touchy topic all the way around, and it goes back again. What do you accept? What do you choose? If a lot of people like this, I'm talking to you online here, and we've been in certain social gatherings when we went out to your documentary. Saw you there, and a lot of people don't know I really am a loner. I really don't like to hang out. I do it once in a while with a small group of people. I struggle in crowds, and that's hard for people to really believe, right? It's lights, camera, action, and I get out there, and there's so much energy for me to put out there, right? And I get around, and I got to fight myself to be very social, right? I feel like I have to, and it's so much energy for me because I can't be around it. But then I could be labeled conceited. He think he's this shit, or he think he's this and that. You don't know how hard it was for me just to step on that floor and get out there. So the reason I'm trying to get it, we just need to just, we all walking around with we're not professional therapists, but we're giving out our own, proposed diagnosis for anything, and it's kind of like, if we could see certain things in people, can we see it in our relationships, in ourselves? And because if you can see it in yourself, then you can spot it anywhere else and say, I don't want it. I don't want it in my life. I'm not going to have it in my relationship. I'm not going to have it around my friends or my family. And you're going to choose what you want or what you don't want.
Right. That's just like in a regular relationship with a man or a woman. If I know that things that I do are obnoxious, I'm not going to find a man that does those exact same things. Because if they're obnoxious to me, they're going to be obnoxious to that person. Yulisa Cora said, and I think that that's kind of like what you're saying. She said, it's important to enforce boundaries that keep yourself protected. And I think that's exactly what the point of this conversation is, because like you said at the beginning, we all can carry those traits. We all can have traits that resemble a narcissist and not be one. It's important for us to set those boundaries of what we accepted. Because let me be very clear and honest and open with all the folks that are watching, and most of them know me. A lot of the abuse I went through, I probably could have avoided if I set boundaries, but I never did. I allowed people to do whatever they wanted because my self-esteem stuck. So I just wanted a relationship. So I dealt with it and I dealt with it and I dealt with it. And in the end, I'm not blaming myself for my abuse, but I am saying that I was a primal target for a lot of the abuse that I had because I didn't set those boundaries. Now, fortunately, I'm 40, so it's about time I woke the hell up. But now is when I'm setting those boundaries and I'm saying, no, you're not going to keep playing with me. You might have done it forever, but I'm done. The cord is cut. I'm not going to accept that anymore because I know that what I want is never what I got. But I never said this is what I want and accepted it and just moved on with it. I just let them do whatever they wanted. Ray, you can put up that comment. So this is what our exec producer wrote in the back. When you first meet the narcissist, they may have showered you with affection. They probably told you how different you were to anyone else they've dated, how you were the one and you two were meant to be. They might have complimented you all the time and given you expensive gifts. I mean, that's like in any relationship, right? Zulma's favorite thing to say is at the beginning, todas las relaciones son color de rosa. They're always beautiful at the beginning. And then people's true selves come out. There's a lot of comments here, so I'm trying to go through them before we move on. So Ray Collazo says, first commandment, don't worship false gods. When someone tries to claim that level of power over you, get away from them. My guest went away. ¿A dónde se fue?
I'm sorry. I had to open the door.
Hey, I'm joking. Did you hear what I said?
No.
Okay, so Ray, go back to that one. It said, first commandment, don't worship false gods. When someone tries to claim that level of power over you, get away from them. So he's responding to the comment about church and the superiority that some of these churches try to push onto you. Go ahead, Ray. Next one. It is our responsibility to do what is good for our soul. Move on because we cannot control how others behave. Absolutely not. I can't control if I dated Edwin, how he would treat me. I have to control what I accept and what I tolerate. So if he mistreats me and I just let him, I've just messed up that entire situation. Ulysses, of course, says, I don't know. That's why it's important to develop a personal relationship with God. So these are all in response, I'm assuming, to what you were talking about. But some preachers try to position themselves as having that power over you. God doesn't have any gatekeepers. Any thoughts on all these comments?
No, not real thoughts. No, I appreciate everybody's comments and
all right.
And Rafael Collazo is one of my favorite folks.
Brother.
I just again, unless you're self-aware of what you got going on and research and read things for yourself. When he mentioned there when someone you allow anyone to have power over you, right? Doesn't even have to be the partner in your life. It could be the preacher, it could be the politician, it could be your boss, it could be your best friend, it could be anyone else. But is you have to be aware and have to step up and say, hey, these are what I love about myself, and this is what I'm not going to allow to happen again, or do the same thing again. So and it goes back on another angle. If you're someone that has done horrible things and which it became a habit, where you're not going to be in a good relationship if you keep repeating the same thing all over again. You're going to have to start checking yourself, and if you're not ready for a relationship and you're not ready for a relationship, don't be in one. But folks still get suckered and pressured into one instead of holding your ground and saying, I'm not ready for this right now. Because you don't want to be later on. It's like, I told your ass I wasn't ready, and it's kind of like that stuff starts to happen. But it's just about just being ready and secure. But, you ever heard that story, the fable? I probably mess it up a little bit, but it still makes sense, right? There's a rabbit that wants to cross the pond, and the snake is like, hey, if you jump on my back, I'll take you across. And the rabbit was like, nah, you're going to bite me and you're going to try, you're going to hurt me. And the snake was like, listen, trust me, I got you. You want to get across? I know how to get across. Just jump on my back and I got you. So once they get across, the snake bites him. And the rabbit says, "Why did you bite me?" And the snake says, "You knew I was a snake all this time."
Absolutely. I love that. So there's more comments there that I want to go back to, but I have a video. Before we get into that, I saw you put it up, Ray, but let's play the second video. The second video are two young adults who are speaking on narcissism, and kind of like she's talking about what could be a narcissist, and he's actually displaying it and not actually acting like he is. But you can tell by the way that he's speaking that everything she's saying, he's doing the opposite of.
Hey everyone, Lisa Green here with a special episode of D News featuring Will from SourceFed.
I'm usually on a different show. I am currently not.
True. Will, when you think of a narcissist, what comes to mind?
Narcissism is kind of like a loud keyboard. It's not that bad when you're the one in control of it.
Right, that's one way of describing it. Narcissism is a type of personality disorder characterized by a grand sense of self.
I wouldn't know. People are often too dumb for me to experience that type of phenomena.
They have fantasies about being powerful and successful.
Someday, when I'm president of everything, you'll all see.
They think the world should revolve around them.
I can't read this next line without a coffee. I need someone to go get a coffee for me.
And they have little empathy for other people.
Hey Lacey, what does empathy mean again?
It means the ability to understand and share other people's feelings.
Yes, I don't do that.
Yeah, I've noticed. Sometimes people confuse narcissism with confidence, but it's not the same.
Confidence is the state of feeling certain of something. Like me when I walk into a Chuck E. Cheese, we all know what's about to go down. Narcissism is completely different.
Narcissists really think of themselves as being better than other people. They're like a fangirl of themselves. While confidence is linked with healthy development and relationships, narcissism can be quite destructive to relationships. You can't meet both people's needs if one person is selfish and self-absorbed. You also can't continue to learn and grow if you already believe that you are the greatest ever.
Unless you're Robert Downey Jr., then it's okay. One of the main symptoms of narcissism is also entitlement. They feel like they're owed special treatment or favors all the time without reciprocating.
Exactly. The reason that narcissism is even considered a personality disorder is because it's a strong deviation from the cultural norm, normal being defined as what's healthy for yourself and for others. Personality disorders are classified as disorders because they wreak havoc in social settings, at work, and in other areas of daily life.
Usually, narcissism is diagnosed with a 40-question survey. At a certain point, it becomes a clinical diagnosis, but people can have narcissistic tendencies without being a full-blown narcissist.
That is true, and a new study in PLOS ONE actually found a very effective way to gauge someone's narcissism levels. Ask them how much they agree with the statement, "I am a narcissist." The scientists found it's actually a pretty accurate estimate of how a more in-depth examination would turn out.
Why is it so effective to just ask? There are other studies that suggest narcissists tend to be very self-aware.
That's right, they often know exactly how they come off to others.
I think we've learned today that we need to take more care of our narcissistic friends. Ask them to put down the selfies and put up the love, or we can just unfollow them. It's really up to you, really.
Thanks for joining us for D News, everyone. On a scale of 1 to 7, how much do you agree with the statement, "I am a narcissist"? Tell us about it below, and you can find more with
I thought that video was beneficial because of that, because of exactly what we spoke about at the beginning, the difference between confidence and narcissistic tendencies that people have. The other comment that Rafael Collazo put up was, Edwin Desamour is one of my favorite Love Shouldn't Hurt guests. A true role model for fellow men in our community. I stand with both of you. So I wanted to make sure that
Thank you, Rafael. Love you, brother.
So I think at the end of the day, what we need to remind ourselves is we all can have a little bit of narcissist in all of us because of our demeanor and different things that he keeps putting up, part 3. Things that we do, but I'm going to hurt him. But I think what's the most important thing is something that you said, and that's about being able to realize that and differentiate the two when it's a positive and when it's a negative thing. What I am going to do now is what I always do at this time. Te voy a dejar solo. I'm going to go to the back and allow you your moment by yourself to give a final thought, share with our people who are watching, and then I will be back.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
My final thought? Okay.
Final thought.
Well, this is interesting because I've been drinking a little bit, but my final thought is just to evolve and grow. We learn every day. The beautiful part about life is every time you get a chance to open your eyes, you get to start all over again. And you get to try to work on whatever you didn't like about yourself the day before. So my whole thing is about working on yourself. I'm constantly working on myself every day. I'm far from perfect. I am really far from the person I want to be, but I'm also understanding that I came a long way from the person I used to be. So there's a reason why you need to keep trying. So, one love, everybody. It's about loving yourself in a good way, not a negative way. Protect yourself also.
Ah, pues that was nice, short and sweet. Que lindo. All right, I'm going to do what I do too. Throw you in the back. Don't go nowhere, bruh. I got something else to say too.
All right.
Thank you, people. Happy Tuesday, right? That's what I always say because it's my favorite day. I love being here. You have absolutely no idea how much I enjoy doing this every week. Is it a lot? It is. We got to think of topics. We got to find people. But at the end of the day, I love it. I enjoy it because, as he stated, we are not professionals, but we have open dialogue about conversations that people don't want to have. I hope that what you received from tonight's conversation is just self-love, people. You don't have to break anyone down to make yourself a better person. If you feel as though you need to break others down to make yourself feel better, chacho, you got to think a little bit differently. Ladies and gents, let's always just think positively about ourselves, about others. If you don't want to be treated badly, don't treat people badly either. Always be positive. Always love on yourself. It's okay to love on yourself, be conceited, and know that you're awesome, but just don't push anybody down at the same time. A few announcements. Next week, super excited. If you have seen my flyers of this person's face, not a flyer, I'm sorry. I threw his picture up today. Next week, we have Danny Torres joining us. Danny Torres is from Florida. He reached out to me to come and speak at our gala. This man is a phenomenal public speaker. He has an amazing story. He has survived cancer all of these years, and he is living a positive life. He goes out, he speaks, he teaches people about entrepreneurial, just working for yourself and just healthy living because of surviving cancer. He is just a phenomenal person. You will get a taste of what you're going to see at our gala. He assures me that every woman and man will walk out of that room feeling empowered, feeling self-love, and feeling like no one can shoot them down. So watch us next week when we talk about relationships and how he feels about it. Danny Torres. Another reminder for folks, Ray, let's throw that flyer back up. October 23rd, people, my gala. There's a few things on there that we've removed. You will see that VIP is no longer there on my updated flyer. You will see that the 5K is not there. My public announcement to all who are watching. I am a very busy woman and I can try to be as empowered as I want to be, but sometimes I take on way too much. So, because we were freezing at our 5K last year, standing in the rain, we have decided that we are moving our 5K to the spring. Woo! So that when you're out there running and walking, you feel good, the sun is beaming on you, and you feel great. We are not going to do it on October 31st, so we have removed that from our flyer. No fret, anyone who has already purchased a ticket, it is still going to be good in the spring. So you're still awesome, but we have moved that to the spring. But the most important thing to know is that our gala is October 23rd. The tickets are $65. Join us because last year was phenomenal, but this year will be over the top. We have some amazing people performing. We will have government officials there. We will have some amazing awards because this year we are celebrating all of the survivors in our community who have dealt with domestic violence and are using that pain as their purpose, as I am. So it's going to be an amazing night. Remember, the dress is formal. I want to see all my mujeres with their beautiful long gowns, our men in their suits looking fabulous. It is going to be a great night. We will have DJ Poli on the mix, who will throw down con la música. We will have amazing performances from people from our community. It is going to be a great night. We have awesome sponsors. Come out, people. Listen, if you are one of those boricuas, cubanas, hispanas, moreno, whatever you are, que se creen que I'm going to buy the ticket late, you can take it down now, Ray, and still be able to go to our gala. I'm going to keep moving. You are misinformed because last year people waited to the end because they said, oh, they're going to have tickets. And guess what happened? We sold out and I had to turn people away the day of the event. So buy your tickets, folks. If the website is slow, which I have heard, just contact me and you can absolutely get them from me. after party. Woo! We will be at Islas Latin Grill. We are having the official after party of our Love Gala at Islas. So join us on October 23rd. I continue to talk about it because I know how amazing our event was last year, and we have stepped it up this year, and we have so many amazing things happening. So make sure you get your ticket, folks. Edwin, ven para atrás so we can say goodbye to our people.
No, I got one. We gotta end this with a joke. Why do narcissists take blurry photos?
I don't know.
They can only focus on themselves.
That's funny and corny at the same time.
Yeah, it is. It's a dad joke. But anyway, thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on, and
thank you for saying yes again. I'm sure that everybody enjoyed. I had a great time as per usual. So thank you for saying yes and always being a great guest.
And also, I got to get a quick plug in. It's not interfering with Christina's event on the 23rd during the day. We have we're celebrating the harvest at the Lighthouse Field on Front and Erie. So we're going to be doing hay rides, moon bounces, candy apples, food, fun. Just bringing back community. Remember, again, our community is dealing with so many, so much when it comes to epidemics, from opioid to COVID to violence. The list goes on. But this is a day where we're trying to get family, and it's free. The event is free. Come on in.
What time does it start?
It starts at 1:00. I put 2, but really 1. Folks show up. But come on out, and you'll be done right before to get ready to get dressed for Christina's event.
That's right.
If not, you can let us know ahead of time. We'll give you the keys, get you back there so you can change and go straight to her event. But hopefully you're there with kids anyway. You should be there with kids and having a good time. And then you get out to the gala. But it's just about promoting family and healthy relationships.
Awesome. Well, Edwin, thank you for everything that you do. Julissa said that was a dad joke.
Yeah, I'm famous for dad jokes. Yeah.
Listen, thank you for what you do. You are a big part of the community in Philadelphia. A lot of people look up to you and admire you, even though you're Mr. Loner. You do awesome things in our community, especially with the park and everything that you do. So thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for watching, for being a part of this evening, for always enjoying our time and being a part of the conversation. Join us next week with Danny Torres. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.